Hey folks, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson of HuskerBigRed.com, and joining me as my co-host, as always, is Danny Gillette of thegreatcornholio.org. And it's been another busy couple of days in the Nebraska football world since our last video. We do have an offensive line coach after some conflicting reports. Donovan Raiola, at least by all accounts, is going to stick around as the offensive line coach. We got a new commitment. We've got tons of guys coming in the transfer portal, hopefully some coming to Nebraska, but we'll start with Donovan Raiola. That's kind of the biggest news right now. There was some conflicting reports last night, but it does seem like it is a done deal. Danny, what are your reactions on Donovan Raiola sticking around here to be Matt Rhule's offensive line coach?
As much as we shit on Donovan Raiola last year, keep in mind that he couldn't fix 4 years of bad offensive line coaching in one season. Um, and when you have an offensive coordinator that is allergic to running the football, that also doesn't help your linemen either. I'm willing to give him another shot. Now, granted, you know, missing a block on a field goal and not even getting out of your stance is concerning, but I think that also comes with proper talent evaluation, and that's not all on him either. Scott Frost couldn't evaluate and develop linemen for crap, and that's what we got. So I'm willing to give him another chance. I think EJ Barthel can help bring that running influence into the offense, and like I said, they were better run blockers than they were pass blockers, and I know nobody probably wants to hear this, but they did get better as the year went on. So I think with an offensive line centric coaching staff and a staff that wants to run the football, he can be better. So although he didn't really improve the line last year, I wasn't really ready to write him off yet, just because he can't fix 4 years of shit in 1 year, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's there's only so much you can do, and yeah, we probably set this higher in stone. We're like, oh, there's no way Raiola's getting kept, so that's how it goes. But I mean, I trust Matt Rhule. That's at the end of the day. I mean, Trev Alberts trusted Matt Rhule. I trust Matt Rhule. I think he knows what he's doing, and I think he's shown that he has an ability to develop not only players but coaches. He's taken a lot of coaches who didn't have much in terms of background and helped them get to, being, I mean, he's got numerous guys that have coached for him that are now head coaches somewhere else, like Jerry McGuire, I believe is his name, the Texas Tech head coach, who, has nothing but great things to say about Matt Rhule. And, Donovan Raiola, I think it didn't fit that well with the Scott Frost offense and whatever Mark Whipple was trying to run. And I just think there's going to be a better, idea of how, to coach these guys. And the other thing too is he's a former NFL coach too. I mean, before he was here, he coached with the Bears. I mean, he has other college football experience, but this is a coaching staff that's loaded up with NFL, experience. I mean, you look at almost every coach right now has got, has played in the NFL or has been coached with Matt Rhule in the NFL. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And I think we're going to see probably more of a pro style. I mean, not pro style, but I mean, it's hard to say anything's a pro style anymore because everything looks so much, alike from pro and college. But I do think we're going to see a lot of pro kind of elements, at Nebraska. And Donovan Raiola, while he is going to be the O-line coach, I've said this before, it wouldn't shock me either if they went out and hired an experienced offensive line coach to be like an analyst. That's somebody who can help in the film room, and those guys, they're really valuable, and they can basically, that they do cost a good chunk of change, but I think Nebraska's going to be able to have more of those guys in the past, so I would watch out for that too. I just think it's good to get this staff built out. I'm a little concerned right now. There's no defensive coordinator. We still don't have, like the wide receivers coach. I mean, there's still some positions that need to be hired. I'm a little concerned about that, but overall, I think Donovan Raiola. We'll give him another shot, obviously, and but the Lions did play better. I mean, the Iowa game, the Wisconsin game, Minnesota, even Illinois. And I mean, Nebraska ran the ball well against most teams. They just need to get the pass protection figured out. And frankly, I thought that Casey Thompson, for whatever reason, like against Iowa, I thought that was one of his best games, kind of stepping up and moving around in the pocket and helping out the offensive linemen. So I do think just some better coaching all around from the quarterback position, throughout the offense is going to help those offensive line guys reduce sacks too.
And I think if we run RPOs and stuff like that and run the football, you won't have to necessarily rely on the quarterback being in the pocket as much, which I think will also help the linemen. They won't have to hold their blocks obviously for as long because Casey Thompson, and I don't think this is his fault. I think this was an offensive scheme, was like a statue in the pocket. He rarely ran the football outside the pocket, and you know that certainly didn't help him as far as health goes. So I am definitely willing to give him another chance. Like you said, I'm not really worried about wide receivers coach because of the events that took place last week. I think that kind of probably put Matt Rhule in a bit of a bind. So I'm sure he'll find one, but I am really kind of intrigued about defensive coordinator. I don't know what's going on there. I think they're probably waiting for somebody, but at this point, it better be somebody good because time is ticking, and we're already seeing transfer portal names flying everywhere, commitments flying everywhere, and so my hope is that it's somebody good, and they're not just I don't know negotiating with Phil Snow, and the negotiations are taking 25 years to get done.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm getting pretty pessimistic about my guy Glenn Schumann, who we talked about the other day. It just seems like if he was going to make a move, I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. So seems like that. We were hoping that Nebraska was waiting just for championship week, like to get him, but it doesn't seem like that. I saw that Jim Leonard now isn't going to Wisconsin, but he's going to coach the bowl game. So I don't. That makes me almost think there's some NFL opportunities for him. And I know the Packers made a really strong push at him a couple of years ago, and he ended up staying at Wisconsin. And they've obviously had a tough year, so they're definitely going to fire their defensive coordinator. So that could be an option for him. And who knows? Purdue could have a new head coach too if Jeff Brom ends up going to Louisville, which I think he's going to. He coached there under his dad was the head coach there, and he was like an assistant coach there in OC. And it just wouldn't shock me. I don't know. I'm not sure which job is better, Louisville or Purdue, but probably Louisville because you got a ton of NIL money, and the ACC is not nearly as competitive as the Big Ten. So,
Was Brian Brom his nephew? I remember that name from back in the like way back in the day, the quarterback, Louisville quarterback.
yeah, I believe so. Yep.
Okay, I knew the
Or at
name
least there's
Brom
some
sounded
relation
familiar.
there, but I think that's his. I can't. There's so many Broms, I kind of get them all
Brian
confused.
Brom
But
was nasty, but anyway, he was so
yeah,
good.
yeah. So they're all connected, and so I don't know if Jim Leonard, if Purdue would try to grab him. I'm not really sure, or what kind of happened to make him back off that Wisconsin job, but could be an NFL type thing. And as far as Nebraska's defensive coordinator, at this point, I'm thinking maybe it's going to be Saravo from Carolina, Mike Saravo, the guy we talked about the other day. Being former secondary coach at Boston College, has coached linebackers. He's been the defensive run game coordinator for Carolina the last couple of years. So he might be that guy. I don't know. Yeah, Phil Snow. I mean, I don't think he's coaching right now because he got fired with Rhule, I believe. So
He's
I'm not
not. No, he's
I'm not
not. And
100% sure. But I don't. So if like those guys were going to be hires, I don't know why they wouldn't have been hired already. At least Phil Snow. So I'm not really sure what's happening here with the defensive coordinator hire, but you got to get. I mean, you can. It's not that you can't have some of these positions open. I mean, it's not going to help for recruiting, but defensive coordinator is pretty important. I mean, you need to get that one up on the board fairly quickly, and that's at least going to give kids an idea of what types of schemes you're going to run.
yeah, and let's be honest here. Any defensive coordinator now would be an upgrade over what we had in Shenanders. So I'm not going to throw Bill Bush under the bus like that because he did a great job. Um, but
He did do a good job, and I haven't heard anything about him, but I wonder if he's going to wind up as a defensive coordinator somewhere.
I hope so. I mean, I could see where Rule just wanted a new staff, and Bill Bush wasn't going to be part of that staff. But I really hope he lands on his feet somewhere because he really did a nice job with the defense. But yeah, I'm curious to see who the defensive coordinator name is. I'm hoping it's somebody competent, and I think it will be under Matt Rhule. I don't think this is a Scott Frost situation. And so we'll
Yeah,
see.
and if it is, Saravo, I don't love that hire, and I doubt that was probably his first choice. but they maybe would have wanted him as a linebackers coach or whatever. But you look at somebody who's been defensive run game coordinator. I know it kind of sounds like a stupid but basically, I mean, that's they have pass game coordinators and run game coordinators. So in the NFL, I mean, that's really just a step below being a coordinator. And you see a lot of guys that are like position coach types and that go from the NFL to that coordinator position. So it's not like it's a huge step up. It sounds like he obviously has some input on the game planning. And, I do think that Nebraska would benefit from an NFL mindset in terms of coordinator, because I really think, you've got to disguise things. And I believe that, some of the best, most successful teams in college football have been able to kind of blend those, NFL aspects with what works in college. So I wouldn't mind seeing, somebody with an NFL background, but I did really want Glenn Schumann, but that was going to be a tough pull. And we'll see. I don't know. Maybe there's some hope for Jim Leonard, but it seems like the whole timing thing there. I don't understand why he would coach the bowl game and then leave. If he was going to take like a job at Nebraska or somewhere else. And can you really wait like 3 weeks for Jim Leonard to be your defensive coordinator? I don't really think you can, but they must be waiting for the NFL season to get over. I'm not sure. There's been more talk. 24/7 Sports, they said that they still we're reporting that Jake Peets is still coming. They haven't really announced anything yet, but so that would be another nice move, I think, for to kind of shore up the offense. Then they would just need the receivers coach, and I do think that shows that Rhule was going to hire Mickey, before all the legal stuff came down. Yeah, hopefully they can get somebody in that position and finalize this staff. But I do like having somebody from the NFL background, here, and hopefully they'll announce that in the next few days. But I'm not sure why it hasn't happened yet. To be honest, it just seems a little strange that we're over a weekend and still don't have a defensive coordinator.
And it's interesting with Saravo's background. He was also the recruiting coordinator at Boston College, so it'll be nice to get another coach on the staff with that background. I like his coaching style. I mean, coaching at Boston College is not easy. I mean, it's one of the bottom tier ACC programs, and but they always recruited tough linebackers, and they always wanted to play that physical running brand of football. And it sounds kind of like the Big Ten, which is why I think his background is, as a run game coordinator, will also help because we've gotten gashed by good running backs in the past, and we need to stop that from happening if we want to win in the Big Ten. So, although it would be an underwhelming hire, I can at least see the reason behind it. Like Mario Verduzco, like that was very strange to me. He didn't do anything. I can at least see, something with Saravo here.
Yeah, I think sometimes, fans get caught up too much in names for assistant coaches. They want a big name coach, and Michigan kind of went through that when they fired Don Brown, and everybody wanted them to go get, like a former college head coach or a big name, and they got Mike McDonald, who was a linebackers coach from Baltimore, had never coordinated a defense before ever, and he was a finalist for the Broyles Award. And then they got, Jesse Minter this past year was a defensive coordinator from Vanderbilt and had, spent most of his time in the NFL and had 1 year of experience. And he was a finalist for the Broyles Award. So, a lot of these guys, just because they don't have the experience, it's kind of like that thing, when you apply for jobs and they want 10 years of, well, you only get experience calling plays once you've done it. So, the thing about Matt Rhule is he's going to know Saravo. He's been with him a long time. He's worked under, Phil Snow for basically all these years. So I'm sure he has a lot of similar scheme ideas, but I'm sure that he also has his own thoughts, and his linebackers have been productive. And it could be that he's just a really smart guy that hasn't gotten his opportunity. I mean, nobody knew who the hell Ryan Day was until he became, Ohio State's quarterbacks coach. And then he was the offensive coordinator. And all of a sudden now he's a guru. So there's a lot of guys out there that have that mindset, but they're just waiting for an opportunity. And maybe Mike Saravo, is that guy for Nebraska.
Living up here in the Northeast and going to Boston College, I wish Boston College kept Ryan Day. That was one of the biggest, and I don't know if, not to go on a rant here, but I don't know if like they had the money to do so because he probably would have gotten a big offer somewhere. But boy, I mean, ugh, having Ryan Day on staff, because I remember when he was coming up, like in '09, I believe he was the offensive coordinator. He was a New Hampshire native, and what could have been? But anyway,
Yeah, and your quarterback left to Pitt, so
Phil Dracovic. He
BC.
struggled last year, though. He
Yeah,
really did. And Jeff Halfley is not turning out the way we thought he would, but we'll see.
yeah, you never know, man. Maybe, but hey, if he goes the way of Scott Frost, he
This is
might be a
a
good defensive coach to hire down the road someday.
this is a pro sports city, Boston and Massachusetts, so nobody nobody
Yeah.
really cares a ton. So that's good. We got that going for us. But yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So in terms of we keep saying we expect these hires to happen, but I would think there's got to be something fairly soon with defensive coordinator. But maybe we have to wait till the end of the NFL season to get Pete's and Sarava. But there really hasn't been that much report. There's been some whispers. I know there's been some of the guys have reported Saravo, and he was kind of expected to be linebackers coach. I don't know. I think it would fit. All the pieces would fit. Along with the other guy that's been rumored as a linebackers coach. And like I said, that's just because Phil Snow, even if he's not on staff, he could be hired as an analyst and get paid a pretty good chunk of change to sit there in the background and help with game planning. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
I
So
think that would be a great role for him.
yeah, so I really do feel like that Matt Rhule is gonna hire more of those type of guys that Scott Frost did, or maybe they'll have more money to hire some good ones, because those guys really do make a big difference. And the other thing I'm interested to see is who's going to be the assistant head coach. Who's going to get that role, because I obviously at this point I don't believe Mickey is going to coach for Nebraska, again. So that's going to be interesting to see who gets that title, because that hasn't been like handed out yet, and that's kind of a big deal. And I still wonder, like, with Elijah Robinson at Texas A&M, could they maybe offer him a defensive coordinator job or a co-defensive coordinator job? I still think there's a lot of moving pieces, but we just have to see how it plays out. And we're paying Matt Rhule a lot of money, and we just have to trust that it's going to work out. It's not going to be smooth sailing all the way, though. There's going to be bumps along the way, and we kind of saw that with the recruiting class, with some decommitments on Tuesday.
Yeah, we did, and honestly, none of them surprised me. Um, Arnold Barnes didn't surprise me because I believe he was recruited by Applewhite actually, but I know Mickey was in contact with him, and then Ben Brommer. Ben Brommer left for Iowa State, and that kind of hurts because he's a fantastic player. He's a guy that I think he had over 1,000 receiving yards and 21 touchdowns last season. So he is going to be a great player for Iowa State, and it's just going to be a lot of bumps in the road. But I trust this staff, and we still have a solid group of players in the 2023 class. I think the biggest loss to me for this class would be Riley Van Poppel if he left, but he's still here. So I think having a Texas flair to this coaching staff may help keep them here. So, I mean, and you're seeing Saturday, I believe we're going to get Elijah Judy onto campus, former Texas A&M player, and then we can just kind of go into depth a little bit more on this. But the wide receiver, whose name I am blanking on right now, that we just picked up on Tuesday.
Oh, Bryce Turner.
Yep, there we go. He's
Yeah.
fast, man. He's fast.
Yeah, and so yeah, his profile fits Matt Rhule perfectly. He's got a win dated 10.25 in the 100, which is flying, and that was as a junior. He's 6'2", about, I think he's 180 pounds. He's going to run track at Nebraska. And what I like about him is he's played running back, he's played wide receiver, so they have a few different options for what he could be at Nebraska, and probably a kickoff returner of some sort. Not maybe, it depends on punts. We don't know what his hands are like. I didn't see. His stats showed yards, but I didn't really see reception numbers, so I'm not sure how many passes that he caught. But yeah, Matt Rhule, his kind of philosophy is, if you're going to miss in recruiting, miss on speed, and that's definitely they're taking that tact with Bryce Turner, because he can fly, and that's something that you can't coach. Rhule and some of these coaches have a history of developing these guys, developing really raw athletes. And, that's what you need to bring him. There's that old saying, you can't coach speed, and, speed kills. All those, old sayings are true for a reason, because they actually are true, and that's, speed is a huge difference maker. And I think that's why, even though Turner is not ranked, I like the commitment, and I like, taking a chance on a guy that can absolutely fly.
He had 14 rushing attempts last season for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 22 receptions for 495 yards and 6 touchdowns. So that's certainly competency in both areas. I think speed is a huge part of his game. And you know, I can't remember the last time um over the past, let's just say, 4 years I've been watching and covering the team where we've just had a pure speed guy. You know what I mean? We've
Hmm.
had talented athletes. I mean, maybe Wandale Robinson, what could be considered a speed guy, but I can't remember the last time where we've had speed.
JD Spielman was pretty
Yeah,
quick,
that's
but
true. I forgot about JD.
yeah, he was
But
awesome.
he was. And then he never did anything after Nebraska. But anyway, um, I like the commitment. I really do. I like the fact that he's not ranked either. Turner. I think this is a kid that will be getting stars, and good on Matt Rhule and the coaching staff for landing him, because I really do think his speed works well in today's game. He can get separation from his defenders quickly, and obviously make things happen after the catch. So I really like this commitment. A little under the radar, but that's okay for sure.
Yeah, you don't need to, these coaches don't need to worry about like the rankings and stuff like that. And it was good to get one up on the board. And I mean, yeah, there could be some movement with some other guys. You mentioned Van Poppel. Hayden Moore is a guy that really, he's going to visit Michigan. I think he's visiting Texas A&M. So if anybody's going to flip out of this class, I think it's going to be him. William Watson, I don't think is going to be part of this class. So I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he left at some point, and that's okay. He was a Mark Whipple guy, just like Brahmer was he was the first commitment of Scott Frost class, and so it sounds like he was pretty tight with the old coaching staff, and that's just how it works out. Doesn't Iowa State's been recruiting him for a long time. He's got a longer relationship, with those guys, and that's sometimes how it works. But I like what Matt Rhule is doing. He really has got a good relationship, with Maverick Noonan. I think he's locked down that commitment. I think he's put Nebraska in a really good spot to get Malachi Coleman back in this class. And sounds like Malachi is going to wait until February, to sign. That's probably fine for Nebraska. It can give, Coach Rhule more of an opportunity to, keep building things with him. But right now, if I had to make a prediction, I would predict that he ends up at Nebraska. I mean, there's talk that he might not visit Michigan, and Oklahoma State's in the mix. I'm not sure how hard Oklahoma's really pushing at this point. So, I feel like it's Nebraska and then kind of everybody else with Malachi Coleman. So I feel like they've done a nice job with the 2023 class, and now it's just adding a few commitments. And another thing too, with Turner is that like AJ Newberry, which was the running back offered out of Colorado, decommitted. He got a crystal ball to Vanderbilt of all places. But Vanderbilt just lost their running back to the transfer portal. So, I mean, that could possibly be a reason, why. But that could be another reason to make a push with Turner, is he's a guy that can play running back and play receiver. And those are kind of two positions of need, I think, in this 2023 class. Especially with Barnes decommitting, there's not a true running back in this class, and there's not really, any surefire addition. So that's why I also, like this commitment of Turner here for 2023.
And I think there will be a surefire running back in this class. I think it's honestly going to take a little bit more evaluation, because there are so many kids in the transfer portal. It's crazy. And I think, although we want the coaching staff to be up to speed from the moment they get here, and, you know, try to build this class quickly, it's going to take time for them to kind of evaluate where the program is, and what they need positionally. I think Anthony Grant might be coming back. I'm not going to say that's 100% confirmed, but that would be big. And so, I think if Grant comes back, then that kind of takes care of your running back issues, for lack of a better word, for at least a little while.
Yeah, definitely. And we have kind of got some hints that Anthony Grant's going to return. He's trying to recruit other guys. He hasn't made any official announcement or anything, but he is an underclassman. So I mean, he's got years of eligibility left, I should say. I believe he'll be a senior next season.
Mm.
So I mean, unless he declares for the draft, he's probably coming back. I mean, we haven't heard a thing about Garrett Nelson. We haven't heard about Casey Thompson. We really haven't heard anything about any of these guys returning since last week. So I don't know. I'm hoping that some of those guys will make their decisions soon. I mean, I feel like if they're going to leave in the transfer portal, they're going to do, like if Garrett Nelson were to leave in the transfer portal, I wouldn't expect the others because they transferred to Nebraska. Although I see other guys leaving after a year, so apparently the 1 year rule, you can just go get a waiver if you want to transfer somewhere else, is my guess. But
Yeah. You see starters like entering the transfer portal who did really well just to kind of get an upgrade to a different team. It's crazy. The transfer portal is absolutely crazy now.
yeah, and people I saw tweet about Ernest Tauschman tampering, like, yeah, duh, of course that happened.
Yeah.
Like, if you thought, I mean, you needed reporting to know that, like,
Phil Dracovic was signed the moment the transfer portal opened a Pitt.
yeah,
He immediately announced his commitment to Pittsburgh. You can bet there's tampering everywhere.
oh
I
yeah, for
mean,
sure,
all these
absolutely,
rules that the NCAA have, like
that they don't enforce.
they're rarely followed, and the NCAA
They're
appears like they
garbage.
don't give a shit. So
Yeah, they don't.
you know,
No, they don't care. So that's the thing is you gotta, Nebraska's got to get their NIL pitch ready to these guys, and I mean that's how Iowa got like Cade McNamara, and they're probably gonna get Eric All from Michigan. They got those guys on. I mean, they got that kid, or it looks like they're gonna get the guy, one of the receivers from Alabama. So Nebraska, I do want to see him. Making some moves in the transfer portal. They, Kagan Johnson, they offered him. At least I think they did
they
because
did.
he
Well, that's
tweeted,
what I saw.
yeah, he tweeted out all the offers and then he deleted them. So I don't know what is going on there, but that would be a huge pickup for Nebraska if they could get Kagan Johnson, and he didn't do much last year because of injuries, but I mean as a freshman, he averaged like 18 yards per reception. So he is a Nebraska guy, legacy recruit, and this team's going to need receiver help with Trey Palmer, going to the NFL. So he could kind of slot in there perfectly. And you add if you could add Malachi Coleman to that list, I mean that's some pretty solid talent at the wide receiver position, based on some of the guys last year too.
And also, I saw this crazy stat the other day where Trey Palmer had more receiving yards and touchdowns than the entire Iowa wide receiving group.
Yeah.
So I don't think Johnson may have not gotten a fair shake at things to show what he could do at the position. But
I think he was hurt last year
he was,
too.
yeah, yeah, that's right, he was hurt. And then I'm trying to think, and I want to ask you a question about this. I saw reports that the kicker Chase Contreras transferred, but the tweet that said he transferred was quickly deleted. Have you read anything on that? Because there were reports out there that he did, but he deleted the tweet. So
I haven't seen anything else out there. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm assuming that he would be gone. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, they've got a lot of specialists that have went into the portal, and I think they're really going to try to close on that kicker here. So I mean, there probably isn't a lot of room for scholarship kickers coming into next season because he's a kickoff specialist and a place kicker. So
he actually did really well on kickoffs. I think he had like 72 touchbacks on 117 kickoffs. But I know there was this weird kind of, phase where Scott Frost recruited like 6 kickers in 1 year, and it was like, okay, like where are all these kids gonna go?
yeah.
There's no room. So
Um, yeah, yeah, I'm sure that we're going to still see more, transfer portal guys. I mean, I think like most of the guys that have hit the transfer portal at this point, have been good. I mean, and there's not, that many huge losses. I'll just say that at this point. And, this is a Nebraska team that still has a lot of young talent, especially on defense. I mean, Quentin Newsome should be back. Malcolm Hartzog should be back. Both of the, Buford and Farmer should be back. Nick Heinrich, Luke Reimer, Ty Robinson. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are going to be, back on this. I mean, this defense is going to be really experienced, especially if you get Nelson and like Mathis back, or I mean, even just Garrett Nelson. I feel like as long as you get one of those two guys back, but especially Nelson because he is so strong against the run too. I mean, he's a true 3-down player. So I mean, outside of And honestly, maybe even ahead of Casey Thompson. I don't know. I'd probably rank, obviously Thompson is my number one most important guy to return on offense, and Nelson on defense. I mean, those are, while I'm watching the transfer portal, I'm also watching those two guys because there would be huge additions if they came back, in my opinion.
And also, Dwight Boodle has been like retweeting Nebraska stuff still, and he said, I think
Yeah,
it
I
was,
think
let's
he's
see,
pretty solid.
yeah. Yesterday he said, "Husker Nation, let's show Corey Collier some love and get him over here." So having him in the fold, he's going to take an official visit from December 16th to the 18th. So it's good to have him still in the fold because I think he can be a really good player. So there is talent. It's just very young, and they're going to need to develop. But again, I trust this coaching staff with development. So
Yeah, and definitely, with recruiting, I mean, I think they're making some smart moves. With the Daniel Kalen, the 2024 quarterback, who's basically a top 500 kid, one of the better players in the state. And Nebraska didn't really recruit him a whole lot before. Mickey Joseph picked it up a little bit after Scott Frost was fired, but Matt Rhule met with him and said, we don't want you to leave the state of Nebraska, and are kind of prioritizing him, and I think that's important. So he's a big get. I really feel like he's a guy that should be Nebraska's 2024 quarterback. He throws the football really well. Kansas State just offered him, more schools I think are going to offer him. And I think Nebraska has a shot to really get this commitment with him locked up before next season if it really does continue to push with them. So I thought that was a really smart move by Matt Rhule. I think they're prioritizing, Carter Nelson is going to be a really big
he would be
prospect.
massive. Yeah.
Yeah, in the 2024 class. So I mean, you're going to take hits in 2023. I feel like it's just this kind of phase is getting developmental guys and trying to fill some needs, and then you're going to go to the transfer portal, and really your first true class is going to be that 2024 class. So I mean, the 2023 one, although it's definitely could be saved if Malachi Coleman commits. I mean, that's going to be huge, but we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, the 2023 class is a little bit tricky for a new coaching staff. That's the class where, like you said, you try to retain kids, and if there's needs, it would be a very transfer portal heavy class. And then 2024, you get to establish those relationships with the kids and coaches at the high schools that you want and the areas that you want, and that's when you can really plant the flag, so to speak, and kind of get your feet under you for your first class. And I think I'm pleased with what, despite the decommitments, how the class still looks because I think there's going to be quite a few transfer portal additions. So, if they can get a jump start on 2024, that to me would maybe perhaps be a little bit bigger than the 2023 class, if only because it would help, start to get future development and kind of restock the class down the line.
Yep, and basically, I think there's, just keep the guys that you got, try to keep, Hayden Moore and some of these other guys. And then, if you get Malachi Coleman, I mean, basically whatever happens beyond that is gravy. Try to get, a quarterback in here. And, there's been a few different kind of names thrown out. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about, the 2023 class. The numbers are going to be low. But yeah, there's going to be some solid transfer portal additions, I think. Hopefully this weekend we can start with some, and hopefully with this offensive line. I mean, that's really where they've got to add, some depth, tackle, guard, up and down the offensive line. So, and those are some of the toughest positions to get. Those like that kid from Rhode Island went into the portal and he's got like 30
Cornelius,
offers. Yeah, so he's got like 30 offers already. So I mean, I think they're going to be looking at the JUCO ranks, but they need some experienced, ready to play linemen, for this roster next season.
I'll be interested to see what comes of Elijah Judy's visit this weekend. Former Texas A&M player. He appeared in one game against, I believe it was Prairie View last season for Texas A&M, but he didn't really do much else. He was a highly sought after prospect. He had 27 offers, including Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon. And he was a beast in high school. He had 68 total tackles and 6 sacks in 3 years of recorded statistics. So, I think getting experience from a guy like Judy and getting that impact playmaker out of Texas, at least getting him here for a visit, is good. We'll see if Nebraska can land him, but I really do like this Texas flair that Matt Rhule is bringing to the program, because I think, for years it's kind of been an untapped area for Nebraska, and they definitely need to get back down there, which is what they are doing.
Yeah, they Texas I think could be a really strong place for Nebraska. Yeah, we'll see. Judy would be a nice pickup. There's been kind of a few other kind of rumors out there of guys, but yeah, I'm definitely interested to see him and just Malachi Coleman again. I keep going back to it, but that's going to be one of the guys that I'm really watching over this visit weekend to see how that kind of goes with him. And Mason Goldman is another name. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed yet. With him as a visitor, but he's another guy that I think that they can try to close on in the 2023 class. I want to say is it. Oh, I'm blanking on the name. The kid that they offered from Nebraska, Jalen. I want to say it's Turner, but I don't think that it is. I don't think that.
Jalen, oh, I know the wide receiver.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it. What's his name?
Is it Lloyd? Jalen Lloyd? I can't remember.
I'll look it up. You keep talking, and Jalen. Yeah, I don't know, but I know that Malachi came for a visit on Sunday. And then
Yeah, Jalen Lloyd is his name.
yeah, there
So
we go.
he's another really quick wide receiver, and he'll be visiting this week. So I think that there are some guys that they're going to try to close up with this 2023 class, and hopefully they can get some on the ninth and as recruits. I mean, they have to kind of know that if you don't commit soon, you're going to be running out of a spot. I mean, just with the way that the transfer portal works and everything. So, that'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. I thought, we could also switch gears just a little bit and, talk about Indiana and Nebraska. We got some hoops coming up tonight. So, while it's mostly a football episode, Nebraska got a huge win on Sunday over Creighton, Indiana. Their last game, they lost to Rutgers by 15 points on the road. They're still ranked in the top 20. Nebraska's a 12.5 point underdog going into Indiana tonight. This is the team that's got 7 former top 100 recruits, the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, and Trace Jackson Davis. What do you think about Nebraska's chances tonight against Indiana?
I'm gonna say I don't know, because I would have predicted a blowout loss on Sunday, but lo and behold, they surprised all of us. And playing in Assembly Hall is always tough. It's one of my favorite venues in college basketball. The crowd's right on top of you, and I think it will be important for Nebraska to employ kind of the same defensive style that they did against Creighton. I thought they did a good job of switching and providing double teams on the shooters, and getting back quickly, if not to create turnovers, then just to disrupt the shooter's timing. I thought Emmanuel Bandamel did a good job of getting his arms in the passing lanes, and kind of playing proactively, I'll say, and creating turnovers. So I really like the defensive style that was employed on Sunday, and kind of the defensive mindset that we've seen so far this season. So I mean, if they can play that same level of defense like they did on Sunday, I do like their chances. I'll be honest, because it's hard to kind of what's the word I want to use? Beat that defense if it's working well. The only problem with that defense is that you have to get back quickly to the open shooter, or else that's 3 pointers all day. But I thought Nebraska did a pretty good job on Sunday against Creighton with that, and if they can just keep up the same defensive effort and feed Derek Walker, then I think they have a good shot. I understand that Indiana's uh, defense inside the paint may be a little bit tougher than Creighton's, but at the very least, you can get some fouls, take the crowd out of it, and you know, kind of make this a grinded out physical game on the road. Play to their pace.
Yeah, I think the big key with Indiana is obviously, Trace Jackson Davis is, the big name, and he's really somewhat similar to Derek Walker in that they just neither of them attempts threes at all. Neither of them has a single 3-point attempt this season. Indiana, that's where they really dominate you. They don't shoot a ton of 3-pointers. They actually are 315th in the country in terms of 3-point attempts. But where they are really great is their 2-point field goals, obviously, which shouldn't be a surprise with Davis, but they're 9th in the country, in 3-point field goals. And in terms of what they've given up, they're basically in the top 50. So they're scoring, 24 2-pointers a game and basically only giving up 15. And they have one of the best defensive, field goal percentages on 2-pointers. So I think the key matchup, for Nebraska is going to be, can Derek Walker, can he defend, Trace Jackson Davis without fouling and keeping himself, I'd like to see Blaise K to get some run too. I'm sure he will, but Derek Walker, can he score inside against this defense? And can Nebraska, basically, can they handle Trace Jackson Davis, at all one-on-one? Because if you double him, then Indiana's going to get, 3-point looks, and they don't shoot a lot. They do make 34% of their 3-pointers. So, I mean, they do have some deadly weapons out there, but their main thing is defense, man. They defend the 3-point line well. They've only given up 60 points a game. The problem is that, they only scored 48 in the other day against Rutgers. So, I mean, this team's going to be hungry for a win. I do feel like Nebraska's going to come in there with some confidence, but I think Indiana will prevail. But I do think that Nebraska is going to cover that 12.5-point spread. I think they'll lose by, maybe 8 or 9 points. I think it'll be a competitive game. And I think this Husker basketball team is going to show well tonight.
This is a very tough stretch for the program too, because they have Purdue on Saturday as well, right?
Yeah, they do. Yep.
Yeah,
And
this is
then
this is going to be a very difficult stretch. And so I'm curious to see what comes out of this, because if they get blown out, then you kind of scratch your head a little bit. But if they can keep these games close, then it gives me hope for the rest of Big Ten play.
yeah, it just, and every game is different. But yeah, winning the Big Ten is really hard, especially, on the road. I would like to see him, still building that positive momentum. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Fred's won 3 in a row against ranked teams. So you never know what's going to happen tonight. But yeah, Purdue on Saturday is another ranked team. Then I think they get Queens College and then Kansas State. So there's a couple of, not that Kansas State's an easy game, but a slight break in Big Ten play. And then I think New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, I think they basically get going from there, and then it's Big Ten. So they've only got 2 non-Big Ten games left to go at this point.
It's kind of interesting how they've played so many Big Ten games this early in the season. I mean, did they do that last year or any of the previous years? I don't remember this many Big Ten games this early.
Yeah, the Big Ten, when they went to their 20-game schedule, they moved to, so every team plays like 2 conference games before Christmas, basically, before New Year's. That's that's the deal. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of Big Ten games here for like the next week or so, and then you won't see them for like a couple weeks. And then right around January 1st or the 31st, the 2nd, that whole weekend's kind of when they restart it.
Okay, cool. So at least that gives them some experience before the gauntlet that is going to be January. Because Big Ten basketball is not for the faint-hearted. It's
No, it's
and
not.
this
But
team's got to be ready.
I think this is like I said, I think this is a team that's built to play in the Big Ten. Sam Griesel's going to have a big night tonight posting up, and like Wilcher, Tominaga, those guys are going to have to hit threes. I mean, this is a game Nebraska's probably going to have to hit 8 to 10 3-pointers to win. But as long as Derek Walker and Griesel are scoring the ball down low, I think that can happen. So, we'll see how it goes. But I'm excited to watch this team at least, and that's not something I could say about Nebraska last year. So, give
Football
me.
or basketball?
Well, I'm excited for basketball. I am excited for football, but this is the first time I've actually been excited to watch Nebraska basketball since the Tim Miles era, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, it really hasn't been too many sunny days, although I was kind of excited at the end of last year when they went on that little run and they beat like Penn State and then Ohio State. That's the thing. Fred Hoiberg's first ranked win was on March 1st, like
Yep.
ever. And now he's beaten 2 other teams since then. So
Yeah, he's got things rolling, and hopefully we can keep it going. So we'll see how that goes tonight. That's a 7:30 p.m. Central Time tip off. So 8:30 for you in Massachusetts there, Danny. 6:30 here for me. So make sure you guys are tuned in for that. And yeah, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
let's get a defensive coordinator and let's get some more commitments.
Get some transfer portal guys. Yeah. So we'll see.
And
Maybe
let's
by the
figure out Casey Thompson, please.
yeah. Hopefully by the time we'll probably have another episode Friday. So hopefully by then we'll have a new DC and we'll have some direction on who the starting quarterback's going to be. So, until then, make sure you guys, like the video, go into the comments section. We love to, get into some interactions and debate on all these coaching moves and recruits. And we love to hear your thoughts and, tell your Nebraska friends about us and make sure that you subscribe to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. Beyond that, check out huskerbigred.com. We've been switching servers, so things haven't been working great for the past week, but I think we're finally, smooth sailing. So if you go to huskerbigred.com and it doesn't upload the greatest way, just give us some patience. But we do have a lot of great Nebraska content there, and Danny's got a lot of great stuff at thegreatcornholio.org. Make sure we've got our Twitter handles here at the bottom, so you can follow us on Twitter and interact with us on Twitter. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.